With the stock market at record highs, are you prepared for the next downturn? Corrections can be unforgiving. Smart investors know diversification is the key to financial security. Noble Gold Investments make it easy to diversify with gold. With over $2 billion in sales, Noble Gold has helped thousands of Americans add gold to their portfolios. Open a qualified account today and receive 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins as a thank you. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Don't let the next correction catch you off guard. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Joining us now is Connor Boyack, author of the Tuttle Twins books, TuttleTwins.com/Charlie. Amazing kids book series, and everyone should check it out. Connor, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
So, Connor, I want to use the lead-in of the flop, the multi-$100 million flop that is Snow White. Disney decided to resurrect Snow White and spend a lot of money. It had a terrible showing this last weekend. It turns out that millions of families do not want a repurposed, let's just say, modern take. You could say it's woke, but it certainly is it's with a flair of the worst of modernity, of a beautiful story that existed well over 100 years ago. You at the Tuttle Twins, you are the author and you are the brainchild of the Tuttle Twins, are having a lot of success getting down to fundamental truths and speaking in a way to families that appeal to them. Tell us more about the Tuttle Twins.
Well, I think you're right. There's been a lot of pushback from parents with Snow White. This is just the latest of a long series of pushback that we've seen. I'm actually very hopeful that we're seeing a lot of families stepping up and saying, no, we don't want that stuff in our home. What parents have lacked in past years are resources that can help them teach their children good ideas, good principles that aren't being shared in the schools. They're not being, shared on social media. And so fundamentally what the Tuttle Twins books are a resource for parents to read alongside with their kids, simple and fun stories that introduce the ideas of human flourishing. We're talking about the power of entrepreneurship, the importance of personal freedom, why merit is so important, right? Property rights, free markets, the ideas upon which America was built, but increasingly in America's schools, not only are these ideas not taught, if ideas like them are taught, they're quite opposite ideas. And parents then wonder as their kids march off to college, how did my child turn into this, brainwashed social justice warrior? Well, it's because you haven't engaged your children's minds when they were younger. And that's what Tuttle Twins is trying to do, to help parents engage their children with these ideas in a simplified, fun way. So as they then go off to college or get on with their life, they've got a foundation of true principles to rest on.
And the popularity of it is growing right now. Everyone can check it out at TuttleTwins.com/Charlie. I'm going to buy a bunch of these for my kids. Finding good kids books is very, very hard. And so talk about how you are incorporating these beautiful ideas, liberty, family friendly, in a way that kids actually want to read it. This is not a textbook. This is not just giving them Milton Friedman's Capitalism and Freedom, but it is those ideas distilled in a digestible way for a child.
Well, I think you raise an interesting point with your personal story, that children are being bombarded with these types of ideas now. And when we started doing the Tuttle Twins in 2014 is when we published our first book, we had a lot of conservatives and libertarians and others say, wait, let kids be kids. We don't need to talk to them about these big adult ideas. We can wait until they're getting close to voting age. And so we got pushback even from our own tribe for doing children's books talking about these big adult ideas. Of course, going through the crazy BLM and DEI and all the stuff that we have in the past few years, nobody on our side talks that way anymore because they see what the left is doing, that they have just this cacophony of content that they're pushing out, whether it's cartoons or books or online stuff. And so now I think increasingly parents recognize, whoa, my children's mind is like ground zero in a ideological battlefield. And if I don't give my child armor and weaponry and knowledge of the enemy, then my child will become a casualty. And so we live in a world where we can't just assume that we can talk to our kids later about these ideas. We need to engage them. Frankly, we need to compete for their hearts and minds because they're being, attracted and exposed by so many hostile ideas. Parents often have been caught in a trap because I'll tell you, Charlie, the biggest problem we run into is freedom-loving moms and dads who do want their kids to learn these ideas, but they, the parents, feel ill-equipped to explain and teach these ideas to their kids. They feel, the parents, increasingly, that, well, I don't know how to talk to my kids about economics or history. I did bad at that subject in school, right, 20 years ago. And so that's where the Tuttle Twins come in. We say, you don't have any prerequisites. You don't need to know this stuff. Just read some fun storybooks with your kids. We got some discussion questions at the end so that you can have amazing conversations. I think you'll resonate with this, Charlie. I, as a passionate lover of freedom here in America, I don't feel that we're going to save our country at the Capitol. I don't feel that we're going to save our country in the courtroom, even though we ought to engage in both those places. I think that if we're going to save our country, it's at the family dinner table. We have to rebuild social fabric. We have to model for our children what civic engagement looks like, what critical thinking looks like. And to do that, we have to empower parents to do this on the daily, in their home, in that environment where we can incubate strong, entrepreneurial, critical thinking minds that can be the future of saving our country.
And over 6 million copies sold. Just talk about what you are the author of the Tuttle Twins. How did you conceptualize all of this? There's so many different, let's just say, sister or cousin equivalents, the Hardy Boys. I mean, typical ideas of, duos that go about life and this kind of adventure. How did you bring this from idea into reality?
Well, my partner, Elijah, who's the illustrator of our books, he and I both had young kids at the time, and we are, very passionate about freedom. And he had been working on like the Ron Paul campaign, and I had been helping, and we had been talking about like, hey, maybe there's an opportunity at some point to partner together. Meanwhile, I started a think tank, Libertas Institute, and I'm out there fighting for freedom. And I wanted to share with my kids what dad does. When I'm helping this farmer fight eminent domain so he can save his land, how do I tell my 5-year-old what dad did all day, right? Rather than, oh, I typed on a computer and simple stuff. I wanted to teach the substantive ideas, albeit at a simple level. So I did what any dad would do in my position. I literally went on Amazon and I said, books that teach about property rights for kids, right? Children's books about free markets. Keep in mind, this is 2013. There was nothing. So as you point out, there's other children's series for adventure and ideas like kindness and honesty. But for economic ideas, civic and political ideas, historical stuff, there really was nothing. And so that was the spark. Elijah and I did a book. We had no vision of what it's become. It was just something we wanted for our kids. A lot of people bought it. They said, when are you doing the second one? A series was born. And frankly, things didn't really explode until COVID. With all the craziness that happened, suddenly families were like, what's happening to my country? All the freedoms that I guess I've been taking for granted are now under assault. And also, I'm now a homeschooler, apparently, because all the schools are shut down. And so that was Tuttle Twins' big moment to really break through and start selling, 1 million books plus per year.
So let me ask, are there books also for toddlers, 2, 3, 4-year-olds?
Absolutely. We have board books for toddlers, such as the ABCs of Liberty or the 1, 2, 3s of the Bill of Rights. Indestructible books that your toddler can slobber on, and they'll still learn about freedom. We got books for teenagers as well, so we run the entire gamut, no matter the age of your child. And Charlie, this won't surprise you. When we've surveyed our audience, over 52% of parents tell us that they are learning new things for the first time, even though they got these books for their kids. We're educating entire families, and it's so critical because groups like yours are on college campus. We have to engage there. We've seen the closing of the American mind on these campuses. I contend that if we invest earlier and help families incubate these ideas even earlier, that helps, downstream solve so many other problems. And so families have struggled in the past to, how do I teach my kids about this stuff? How do I talk about it? I don't understand it very well. That's the problem we're trying to solve. Just read these fun books, talk about it together, and you'll be amazed at the aha moments that your kids will have. You ask about a vision for America. I think of the NAEP scores that came out about a year ago. This is the national assessment of how kids are learning in America. And they found that for the 8th graders, when they tested them on American history, only 13% of them were proficient in American history. That's 1-3, not 3-0, 13%. So then I ask you, Charlie, and our audience, what becomes of America if the future voters are so ignorant about our past. Those who don't learn from the past, of course, are condemned to repeat it. So my vision for our country is that we can empower families across the country to learn these ideas together, to give their children an intellectual, ideological, historical foundation of ideas so that as they go out into society and they're bombarded with all the garbage that's going to come upon them, whether that's from peers, social media, academia, or whatever, they're going to be able to withstand it. They're not going to be an impressionable, robot that just is assimilated into the Borg hive mind. They're going to have the capacity to think critically, to act independently. But we've got to put in the work. We can't assume best intentions of a system that's clearly been corrupted, where the curriculum has been dumbed down. Parents need help. They need a lifeline.
Yes.
They want to step in and they want to help their kids. That's what the Tuttle Twins is trying to be, is a resource for them to do exactly that.
TuttleTwins.com/Charlie. Thanks so much. Great work. We'll have you back on soon. Check it out. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
That is TuttleTwins.com/Charlie. I'm buying some right now, and you should too.